All right, so we're set. Good morning, everybody. We're happy to have David Anderson here with us. According to my sheet, the president and CEO of Wise from over since 2007. Is that correct, David?
I've been at Wise since 2007. I was
Great.
the executive vice president until about 7-8 months ago when my previous president and CEO retired, and I had the privilege of taking over.
Wonderful. We're so happy you're with us to share your knowledge and expertise. And I know the time is tight, so I'm not going to take up any more time. So you can share with our great group here, and I'll watch the chat. If anything's in there just for the rest of the group, I will drop in attendance in about 15-20 minutes, and then the survey at the end.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Dave, for that nice introduction. And good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you. As you said, I'm the president and CEO of Working in Support of Education. I'm going to spend a couple of minutes talking broadly about who we are, what we do, and then dive into the program that we are very proud of. It's a financial literacy certification program that we offer at high schools throughout the country. So just a little background about Wise. We're based in New York City. We're a nonprofit, a national nonprofit. We started business in 1998, and our focus is on two really critical areas of education, and it's predominantly high school education that we're focused on, but not exclusively. And the two pillars are financial literacy, which is the topic of today's conference. But secondly, we have a focus on helping high school students become better prepared for college and the workforce. In the financial literacy arena, we have a suite of programs or initiatives. The financial literacy certification program is the one that I'm going to devote most time to today. But I will mention in passing our personal finance certification for teachers, and we'll circle back and discuss that at the end of this presentation. But I also want to mention a program that we have called MoneyWise. And although most of our work is to support high schools around the country, MoneyWise is quite different. It's a program, it's a financial education program for adults, and specifically for victims and survivors of domestic violence. And you may know that victims of domestic violence are almost always victims also of financial abuse, through the abuser controlling money, denying access to money, and so on. And so the victim of domestic violence is shackled to the abusive relationship, oftentimes because she is really not knowledgeable about or confident about managing her money. And I say her because 95% of domestic violence incidences are of women. And so we created MoneyWise, which is a 12-session course on personal finance to help victims and survivors of domestic violence develop that knowledge and confidence about managing their money. And we offer this program in a number of cities around the country through partner agencies that provide services to not just domestic violence survivors and victims, but also other at-risk women, victims of sexual abuse and things like that. So often we work with the YWCA. There are agencies called family justice centers that provide services to domestic violence survivors and at-risk women. And so it's a really transformative program designed to help these brave women sort of break loose of an abusive relationship. And on the other side of the fence, we have a series of programs that we do offer at high schools that are designed to help students develop their soft skills so that they can move on from high school with problem solving skills, critical thinking skills, really good quality writing skills, oral communication skills, research, technology, and so on. These are skills that in a number of school systems around the country, particularly large urban centers like New York, students are graduating without these soft skills, and so they're moving on to the workforce, they're moving on to college without the preparedness to succeed. And so we have a Quality of Life Innovations program, the WISE Institute, and we manage a program on behalf of the European Union called the Euro Challenge. Each of them, in a slightly different way, is designed to help students develop the skills that are so critical to college and career success. And if you take these two initiatives together, financial literacy, college and workforce readiness, together, what we're trying to do is to really improve the economic mobility of young people throughout the country. Now, the topic, because this is a financial literacy conference, I'm going to devote the bulk of our time together discussing our financial literacy certification program, which we created and designed in 2002. We piloted the program that school year, in a half dozen high schools in New York City. And then since then it has flourished. And as you see from the third bullet on this slide, it's now a program that is offered in 49 states, with one exception, and that is yours. And so hopefully today that may change. If you decide that you would like to sign up for the program, I'd love to have you as a participant. But it is in 49 states. And the essence of the financial literacy certification program is that it supports personal finance instruction in high schools. And by that, I mean it can support a semester-long course. It can support a comprehensive unit within another course like economics. It can support a year-long course on personal finance, any and all of the above. And for any high school grade, 9 through 12. It's unique in the sense that at the culmination of the course on personal finance, participating schools administer our national standardized certification test. And students that pass the test earn what we call a CFL. They become certified financially literate. And that's it's a credential that is not going to get them a job, because personal finance is a life skill. It's not a vocational skill yet, but it does help them on their college applications, in their search for work. And it's a credential that is one that can be used and is used in career and technical education in a number of states, as you probably know. Students that are going through the CTE program of studies often have to earn a certification to graduate, and where they do, one of the certifications that they could use is ours. Even where we offer the program in social studies or math or another discipline, the certification is something that the kids are really, really proud to earn. The credential and our assessment are approved by departments of education in a number of states. The assessment is generally, if you're familiar with the terminology, it's approved as a level 1 exam, which is the highest rigor in those states where it's approved, and in others, the certification is approved by the DOE. So that, in a nutshell, is the program. And now what I'd like to do is to spend a few minutes talking about what it is, if you sign up for the program, what is it that we provide? And I'll start with at 3 o'clock, professional development. We provide professional development in a variety of different ways. 1, on our own, and 2, with partners. on our own, we have an annual conference based in New York City. Prior to COVID, obviously in person. During COVID, it's been a hiatus, but we will be relaunching our annual conference either later this year or early next. And it's a day's worth, rather like what you're going through today, is a day of learning around not just the content, but the pedagogy of teaching personal finance. We also run periodic webinars throughout the school year for educators, and the goal there is to, one, provide content, but also, again, pedagogy around teaching personal finance. Some of the webinars are specifically designed to provide material that can be then taken back into the classroom. But then at the same time, we organize and run webinars that are on topics that you as educators might simply be interested in, and areas of finance, areas of the financial sector and so on that are not well known. That we'll have a guest speaker present for an hour or so on a specific topic that that teachers might be interested in, just for purposes of their own learning. And then we partner with other organizations to support their professional development. So Jumpstart, for example, we're a national partner of Jumpstart, and the Jumpstart coalitions throughout the country often have their own state conferences for professional development around personal finance. Council for Economic Education, that you're probably familiar with, does as well. And we will work alongside them and support the professional development that they're offering through the certification test for teachers that I'll talk about in a few minutes. So moving to 12 o'clock, instructional resources. This is an important piece of the program. We have really three main resources that we provide to help you teach your personal finance course or unit. I guess the main one is a teacher's guide, and it's a comprehensive roadmap of the topics that you need to cover to prepare students to take our certification test. So it doesn't include the how to teach. We leave that up to you, but it does comprehensively list the what needs to be taught. And on the next slide, I'll give you a very high level of those topics, and you'll see that it's the topics that I'm sure you're teaching already. We do have a resources directory as well. So there's the teacher's guide, which is the what you need to cover. And the resources directory is a directory of upwards of 300 links to upwards of 300 websites of resources that can be used to facilitate the how you teach. So there's the sections on games, there's game-based tools, there's simulations, there is a section on lesson plans where you can actually go into a site and there is a whole bespoke set of lesson plans for a whole course or for some specific topics. There are sections on content relating to each major topic area and so on. So it's a very, very comprehensive directory of resources that can facilitate your lesson planning. And then third, the other resource we have is a practice test database. And I'm going to devote a few minutes to this later on in the 45-minute time we have together. But as you are teaching the material, the course, students can take practice quizzes, practice exams, and so on to help. Practice makes perfect, and so it's designed to help build their capacity. Then going down to 6 o'clock, standardized assessment, we have a pre-test. It's optional. I would say that probably 70% or more of the schools we work with do administer our pre-test as well as our certification test. And obviously the pre-test is designed to benchmark student knowledge going into your instruction. And then the other assessment we have is the certification test itself, which you administer at the end of instruction. And the test is It's not a static test. We develop new tests every semester in the fall and the spring. We have multiple tests running at the same time. So it's not a static test. It's an online test, although we do offer a paper-based option as well. Some schools are just they're so large. We have schools in New York City, for example, that are administering tests to 1,000 students, and they just don't have the computer capacity to do that online, and so they'll use our paper-based test. Similarly, there are students with IEP accommodations that require that the test is offered in paper-based form, and so we offer that as well. But 95% of the schools we work with use our online test, and it's secure in the sense that there's a secure browser that locks down the computer when students log in, so they can't obviously use any other application while they're taking the test. But it's also, while it's secure, it's also very easy to use for both the proctor's standpoint and for the students. So it's a proctored timed test with accommodations for extra time. There's also we have a text-to-speech feature on the test, so that if students want to use the earbuds to take the test, they can. And there are other accommodations as well. And then lastly, at 9 o'clock, awards and recognition. And so this is a very, very important feature of the program, and that we really want to recognize you as educators and your schools for the great job that you're doing teaching personal finance and for developing the financial literacy of your students. And so I'm going to circle back to specifically what kind of awards and recognition we provide a little bit later on. So I mentioned a moment ago that our teacher's guide is a roadmap of the topics that you would cover in a course or comprehensive unit on personal finance. I think looking down this list, there should be no surprises. These are topics that are almost universally contained in learning and content standards for personal finance around the country, as well as the national standards of organizations like Jumpstart, like the Council for Economic Education. And so really, when the school signs up to participate in our program and is teaching personal finance, from a topic standpoint, there's nothing new to learn. There's nothing different. The program just drops very neatly into a course, because the topics that we're asking you to cover are the topics that you're actually teaching. So the alignment with national and state standards is very, very important. I wanted to show a score report. This is from our online test, and this is an individual report for students. Each student can get this report. And in addition to that, you as the teacher can create roster reports that has obviously a summary of the scores of students in each section that you're teaching. So there's a roster report overall, and then there's one that you can create for a specific section of personal finance that you might be teaching. From the individual's perspective, obviously it's a nice bar graph here to illustrate how students have performed on the test. You'll see that the score is shown overall. So the overall score across the 50-question test. In this instance, the student scored 70. But then we also break it down into four subcategories. One on financial planning, money management, one on banking, and that includes money, cost of money, interest, and so on. The third one is credit, and the fourth one is insurance and investing. And so you can, the pre-test score report is the same, and is also broken down into these categories. And so you can look at how students have grown in their knowledge in overall, but also in these four major blueprint categories, and then obviously see how they performed at the end of the course when you administer the test. And so it's a very nice, it informs teachers of areas where, you know, there may need to be additional focus in subsequent semesters. You'll see here that this is quite common, that the area where students struggle most is in subscore D, which is, it's predominantly it's insurance and investing, but they really do struggle on the investing section. So down below the bar charts, you'll see that the student can see her or his own score overall and by topic, but also the school average as well. So you as the educator can compare individual students with if there are multiple sections of personal finance being taught, then you can compare individual students and your own class with the school overall. So I mentioned a moment ago that we really do place a great deal of emphasis on recognizing, thanking, and honoring schools and teachers for the great work that you're doing teaching personal finance. The CFL, the certification that we offer for students, is their award, so to speak, by passing our test. But we also have a number of different awards for teachers and schools. Gold Star teachers, for example, are those for any teacher who has a 93% or higher passing rate in one section of personal finance in the year, becomes a Gold Star teacher and earns a certificate for that achievement. And then we honor schools as either Blue Star or Platinum schools, again, based on certain criteria relating to the passing score as well as the average score on our test. We have financial literacy scholars, and those are students whose score on the test exceeds 95%. And any 95% or plus student is a financial literacy scholar, and that makes them eligible to apply for our ambassador award, the Financial Literacy Ambassador Award, which we award every year to 5 students who, if they are scholars, in other words, they've scored 95% or higher on our test, they can apply through an application process. They have to write an essay, they have to get a letter of recommendation, a couple of other things, and then it goes through a competitive judging process of 3 rounds. And at the end of the judging process, 5 students are elected to become that year's financial literacy ambassador, and they each earn $1,000 cash prize. It's not scholarship; it's a cash award. Then our highest accolade, I think, is the 100 best wise high schools teaching personal finance. And we created this ranking in 2013 to, one, really highlight and showcase the excellence of personal finance instruction that's taking place among our network of schools. But also, the ranking shines the spotlight on the fact that personal finance is so important. And so we wanted to, thank schools, acknowledge the schools of excellence, true excellence in our national network, but we also wanted to use this as a platform for shouting from the rooftops that financial literacy is really, really, really important. And so each year we announce the ranking of the 100 best high schools from the previous school year in April. It's this month. It's Financial Literacy Month, as you know. This year's 2022 ranking will be announced on April 28th of this year. Prior to COVID, we announced the ranking at an in-person ceremony, often at the New York Stock Exchange, sometimes at the New York Fed. During COVID, we announced the ranking through a virtual ceremony. And on the 28th of April this year, we'll be reverting to an in-person ceremony that will be held at the national headquarters of the United Federation of Teachers. And it's a really wonderful celebration because we bring the schools, the teachers, administrators, and so on, from the 100 best schools in our national network to New York City, and you know, we have keynote speakers and other guest speakers and so on, and we celebrate with banners and trophies the top schools in our network. There are 4 award categories. One is the 100 best overall in our network, and then we have separate awards for the best smallest, medium-sized, and large school in our national network. And as I said, the #1 school in each category receives the trophy, and all the schools in the 100 best ranking get a banner. So it's a very special celebration, and it's one of a kind. It's the only ranking of its type in the country. I'd like to spend a few minutes on some of the new things that we have recently developed and launched. Starting on the left, bring your own proctor. So at the start of COVID, I think most providers of educational programming like ours obviously reverted to a virtual platform almost overnight. And so we've continued to offer our test proctored by teachers from their homes to students in their homes. And we've done that through this platform called BYOP, Bring Your Own Proctor. And so embedded in our online testing platform is video capability that allows a teacher or administrator to administer our test virtually to students from their homes. And even post-COVID, if I can use that term, there is still some interest in using remote proctoring. There are situations where students, have to take the test from a location other than the school, and BYOP is the tool that schools use for that purpose. And on the right-hand side, we have developed a support for learning management systems. So more and more schools, I'm sure maybe you are count amongst them, are using systems like Blackboard and other learning management systems to facilitate single sign-on for the students into a whole variety of tools that the students will use at school level. And so we've created an interface such that students through single sign-on can access our test through the learning management system of the school. And it's nice in the sense that there's because the students are not having to sign in multiple times or create a profile multiple times, the information about the student is absolutely accurate. We have had, before the LMS interface developed, we had occasionally a situation where a student would create a profile in our online test, and let's say, Mr. Brandkamp created a profile of David, but then in the school database, the school has Mr. Brandkamp listed as Dave. And so those two different names, David and David, or Dave and David, wouldn't dovetail with one another. So through the LMS interface, that cannot happen. So if Mr. Brandkamp is Dave in the school system, then he's Dave in our online testing system through the LMS interface. And then thirdly, in the middle, we launched last year a brand new financial literacy practice test database, and it has 2 components. There's a web-based platform and a mobile app. And the web-based tool is completely integrated into our online testing system. And so if you are, as a school are administering both our pre-test and our certification test, that's all through one platform. And now the practice test database is also part of our online testing system. So it's one source for pre-testing, practice testing, and certification testing. It's optional, just like our pre-test. What's really quite nice about the web-based platform is that it's there's a very, very good reporting feature connected to the web platform. And so as students complete their quizzes or tests, then the information gets recorded in the database, and you as the teacher can then track how the student is performing on each time they take a practice quiz. So if I took a practice quiz, let's say today on banking, and I took another one tomorrow on banking, then those two scores would sit side by side, and you can see how the student is improving his or her knowledge. It's a large database, and so the questions get thrown up randomly, and because it's a very large question inventory. Students can take a practice quiz on a given topic a number of times before they're going to circle back to get the same questions. And then the second feature is the mobile app. And we were very excited to develop this mobile app with support from one of our long-standing partners, Deutsche Bank. Volunteers from the bank developed, technology experts from the bank developed the app. And I'm going to show a few features of it in a moment. But the combination of the web platform and the mobile app means that you, as the teacher, have a flexibility to administer a quiz in class using the web platform, to set a practice quiz as a homework assignment, and they could do it either using the web platform or the mobile app. A variety of different ways that you can administer the practice quizzes and tests based on what you're wanting to accomplish in your classroom. This is an example of a question in the mobile app. You'll see here that this says 15 basic questions. And so we have a series of topic specific quizzes. So banking, credit, insurance, investing, and so on. And there are two different levels, basic and hard. And so students can select to do the basic quiz or a hard quiz on a specific topic. And then in addition to these 15 question quizzes, we have, I'll say, comprehensive 35 and 50 question tests. Again, basic and difficult. And they're cross topic, obviously. And so the practice tests, as opposed to the quizzes, are a very useful tool for you to use as students come close to taking the actual certification test. Once they've completed a quiz, they get this score report to show which questions they got right, which questions they got wrong, whether they passed, they didn't pass. I think out of 15, the passing score, I think the passing is 10 or 11 out of the 15 correct. And then importantly, there's a rationale for each question. And so the student can click on any one of these questions and they'll get the rationale for why the right answer is the right answer. So obviously that's a very good learning tool for the students. And this rationale is available, again, both through the mobile app as well as the web-based platform. I will mention briefly the certification for instructors. So we created an exam for personal finance instructors. Doesn't have to be high school classroom instructors, does not. But it's used extensively by schools across the country for helping teachers to demonstrate their proficiency to teach personal finance. It's an online test. Again, it can be paper-based, but it's almost always administered online. It too is a proctored exam. It's a timed exam. It's clearly a more rigorous, it's a longer test than the student test. It's a more rigorous exam, obviously. And teachers or instructors, personal finance instructors who pass the test, they too earn a certification in personal finance. And there are some states now where this exam is required, that teachers have to pass this exam in order to teach the subject matter in a few states. We administer it in different modalities. In some instances, we will administer this test at conferences like the one that you're attending today. And some conference organizers have pre-conference credentialing, sometimes at the end of the conference. But we will administer the test in one of those certification sessions at a conference. Secondly, we administer the test, as I mentioned earlier, in partnership with organizations like Jumpstart, like the Council for Economic Education, who are providing 3, 4, 5-day professional development sessions on personal finance. And so we have a pre-test. And so if it's a 5-day boot camp on personal finance, for example, the partner will administer our pre-test on day 1, and then the certification test on the 5th day. We provide test prep prior to the teachers taking the exam. We do a very careful analysis of each answer on the pre-test, and that informs us as to how, and it guides how we provide the test prep session before the teachers take the exam. And then thirdly, it can be administered at district level. So any district can contact us and say, I have a teacher, or I have several teachers in a school, in a district, whom I'd like to take the exam, and the school or the district simply has to secure a proctor who is an administrator at the school or district, and then on a day agreed to by the proctor and the teachers, we'll administer the test. We have a study guide to help you prepare for the exam. Again, it's rather like our teacher's guide for the student program, in that it's a comprehensive list of topics that could be assessed on this exam. And so it informs you as to what could be examined, and helps you think about those topics that you may need to do some homework on prior to taking the test. And it costs $50 per test. Before I wrap up, I would like to mention another series of initiatives that we manage on behalf of the European Union, and these are finance, but also economics related programs. The high school program is the Euro Challenge, which we offer in, I think, 17 states now, as well as last year we launched the Euro Challenge in Canada. And the goal of the Euro Challenge is to help. It's for 9th and 10th graders. It's a competitive-based program, but it's to help them learn about the economic bloc, which is the euro area, and the single currency. And so they have to do a diagnostic of the financial and economic outlook in the Eurozone, and they have to examine a particular economic issue in one of the Eurozone countries and come up with prescriptive solutions for how that country should handle the issue. So for instance, aging of the population is an issue students can say, okay, I'm going to examine aging of the population in Spain. Why is the population aging there? What can we do about it? And then the other initiative, the Schumann Challenge, which is at the bottom of this chart, is a program that is, again, it's competitive based. It's also a European Union program, and it's a foreign policy initiative for undergraduate college and university students. And so each year, students are given a topic that they have to examine, and then they have to present the results of their research to panels of judges in Washington, D.C. We just completed this year's Schumann Challenge. Last year, for example, the topic was on the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan following the U.S. withdrawal. This year's topic was on issues relating to climate change. So it's an issue that is common to both policymakers in the U.S. as well as Europe, and it's a very, very, very fine and high-powered competition. So the person who should be presenting today is Dario Stipicic. He's my senior director. He's on vacation and asked if I would present on his behalf, but I think we'll be sharing these slides. And so if you have questions after today's session that you would like more information about, then please do contact Dario. If you'd like to sign up for the program, we'd love to welcome you to the program. But Dario would be your main contact point. And with that, I will wrap up.
Thank you, David. Does anybody have questions for David or anything about the program? Both the survey for attendance and the survey on the session are in the chat. I have a minute or two before we're that break, David, between them and their 30-minute lunch break here. So. So just a reminder, remember lunch is on our own from 11:20 to 11:50, and then the student panel is on at 11:50. That will be our next session. So
well, thank you very much.
I'm seeing thumbs up, waves, so I think we're set. I will hang on until people have a chance to do the survey or ask any questions, David. So thank you, especially coming from the East Coast. We appreciate it.
Not at all. It's my pleasure. It was a pleasure to meet you all.